Yep, all set.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. My name is Larry Cataldo. I'm Chair of the Citywide Neighborhood Committee. We're having our committee meeting first of the year, January 26, 2022. I want to know if we have anybody in the audience at this point who have any comments, any neighbors who have complaints or comments at this time. Welcome, Kathy Bergeron. Thank you for joining. And let's see, I wonder if we have, yep, welcome. Okay, and do we have Marie Gallagher here yet, Kevin?
We have a Marie Keller, but no Gallagher. And Marie Keller does.
Okay, yes, that'd be fine.
She has her hand raised. She just doesn't want to be promoted to a panelist, so I can allow her to talk if that's okay with you.
All right, well, we can begin we have a very short agenda, but we can begin by asking Marie if you have any comments or any concerns that you have.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Okay. I'm Marie Kelleher and I live on Beverly Hill Road. I have a question to ask. What can be done to get the city vehicles to slow down on our roads throughout the town? We've talking, and if they would obey the speed limit with how many of these vehicles are on the roads each day, they would be more effective than the blinking lights and signs on every street that just tell you that you're speeding. Everyone behind the vehicles would have to go the speed limit, kind of like a rolling roadblock for speed control. We are not requesting anything unreasonable or costly, just obey the speeds. Examples this week just on my road alone was Monday morning on Beverly Hill Road, a city police car with no lights went past our blinking speed sign at 40. On January 12th at 1:40 in the afternoon, a city work truck went by that same blinking sign at 45. The speeds are not unusual for the city vehicles. And the speed limit is only 25. We have so many problems on this road. And again, we just feel that if the trucks would go the speed limit, the city vehicles would go the speed limit, it would solve a lot of problems very inexpensively. That was my comment and my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Have you noticed this in more than those two occasions? Have you noticed this more often?
This is a daily constant occurrence all the time. This was not unusual. I do have the number from the truck. If anybody wants to contact me, I can give you that number. I don't want to do it online.
Yes, I understand.
It's
and
that will come up behind me and push me down the road because I am going the speed limit. So it's both in front of you and behind you.
Maria, are there any automatic signs that give you the speed limit, the speed of the vehicle on your road at this point?
Yes, those are the signs that I just spoke about, that I saw the speed limits as they went past them at 45 for the truck and 40 for the police car.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll contact you separately and get the number on the truck. But I think that we can certainly contact Peter Rice. Is Peter's representative Zach here by any chance?
Hi, yes, I am. I'm writing this down, and I would be interested in knowing the city vehicle number.
Okay, Zach, I'll contact you. What is your extension? What's your phone number? And I'll get back to you.
My extension, the number is 603-610-7304. That is my desk phone.
Okay, good. I'll take care of that, and I'll contact the chief on this too. I think it's important that with the flashing signs and other things going on there, that the people should observe this. And it is a common, although an unpleasant thing, but it's a common complaint that we have, and maybe it's this time of year. Who knows? But I'll look into it. Thank you very much for coming, by the way. I appreciate you being here to answer any questions. Okay, good. Thank you very much, Marie. I appreciate that.
Thank
Is there
you.
anyone else who would like to? I see Diane. Right, Diane.
Hi, I don't know what happened to my face, but that's okay. You can hear me anyway. I live on Union
Loud.
Street.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
you
we
hear me?
can.
Yeah, okay. I live on Union Street off Middle, have for a long, long time. And I work downtown and I walk on Middle Street. And there are two things, especially in the winter, anytime. We need another light between Middle, Miller, I always forget if that's Summer or Winter. I know it's not fall or spring, but Summer or Winter Street. I think it's Summer Street. And
Summer
Cabot
Street.
Street. Yes,
Summer.
and Cabot Street. Directly across from the Women's City Club. The street is extremely dark. And we seem to only have street lights at intersections. And of course, we need them there, but that's a long stretch of street. And there is a pole directly opposite the Women's City Club on the other side of the street. And we really need a street light there. The street is very, very dark. The other thing is the intersection of Summer, Middle, Miller.
Miller.
There are signs
Right.
that say
That's
no
right.
turn on red, but they are ignored constantly, and it's very hard to cross that street. If there was a police officer there, they could give tickets out in about 10 minutes. Everybody comes to that corner and makes a right turn on red, even though the street sign says no right turn on red. And I don't know what else can be done about it, but it happens coming off Miller making a right onto Middle. It happens on Middle, making a right onto Miller. Those are the most dangerous parts. So it's just constant, absolutely constant. So Zachary, see if you can do something about that for us.
I do not know the process of
Thank
putting
you. Thank you.
streetlights, but I can bring this to Peter Rice's attention. Thank you.
Tell Peter Diane Stradling requested it. He he knows me. Thank you.
Yeah, Diane, if this doesn't quite work out, get back to us, and we certainly can address this at the Parking and Traffic Safety Committee. I mean, this is another thing that we could do if this other doesn't work out. So
I appreciate it.
thank you very much for that. Okay,
Thank you.
welcome. Yep. Okay, anybody else here who has any comments or concerns? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Then let us go on to the next thing, which will be committee business. I know that we don't have any new members to talk about yet, because there was nothing mentioned at the last city council meeting about citywide neighborhood committee. But having John Tabor here is very comforting, John. It means that we're not all fired yet, and that some of us can return and continue on. So that's very helpful. One of the areas that I wanted to talk to you about is the attendance at the forums. And I know that's been a constant concern of mine since I've been on the committee. Not that it hasn't, not that the attendance hasn't been poor, but in this last meeting in November, I think we had like 4 or 5, and maybe just 1 or 2 spoke. And as all of you know, we spend a fair amount of time promoting it. Not only the city promotes it, the committee promotes it in a number of ways. So through the social media, and we'd like to see a decent turnout because we have the mayor, the city manager, Peter Rice, and the fire chief and the police chief there, and that's a lot of folks there. And I certainly like to explore the idea that maybe we should think if we have to change either the venue or something else about the forums. But so the first person I'd like to ask is John. John, you've probably seen these in the past, and I wanted to know if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, I'm happy to be here tonight and be the council representative. The work you do is important. And Larry, you've been chairing this or involved with this through 3 councils, right? Or at least 2.
Yes, certainly for 2 years, and then I've been on the committee since 2015.
Right. We spent a lot of time at the council retreat talking about how do we reach residents and make sure that we're communicating to them. There is no complete email list. So I think we're one of our big initiative areas for our term to be more inviting of citizen input and find the multiple channels of communication through social media, through email, through even printed material to get the attendance up at events where people can become involved. Gotten involved with the neighborhood committees, and they've gone on to serve the city in a lot of ways. So it's really in our best interest as a city government to step up the involvement, step up the outreach. We don't have the answers to that, but it's one of our priorities.
Well, thank you. I had a few ideas, and I mean, to kick off 2022, hopefully after this COVID thing passes, I'm somewhat optimistic based on what I've heard from Dr. Fauci about the Omicron eventually becoming a common virus rather than having the threats that it offers, hospitalization and others that is well beyond the control of it. So that there's some optimism here that maybe sooner or later this pandemic has to end. But so we have to be kind of flexible in the meantime. But I'm thinking of maybe April or May. There are 2 topics, John, and the others. Thank you all for coming. The 2 topics that come to mind right away. First, we had a very brief overview of sound barriers, but one of the previous city councilors suggested that we hold a meeting at the Franklin School on sound barriers and invite not only school officials, but also there's like 4 or 5 other groups who are involved in this to come in and make public comment and provide information to this forum. So the forum I would think would stay the same. In other words, we'd have the city officials and you guys there, but we'd add more of a topical view on this, and so it narrows it down to that. To sound barriers at Franklin School. We would, another one would be the neighborhood forums in general, but another problem would be the parking permit program in Islington Creek. And that in itself would have some special interest, and we could hold a middle school forum on this subject and have, let's say, Peter and Mr. Fletcher and a few others there to talk about what the results were of the pilot program, but also have some of the residents there to raise questions about it and what we think about it. So I think that's another conversation that we could have. And all of these, by the way, I would present to a full committee when we get to that point, or at least to the point when we can have a quorum. The third one would be general parking problems in the city. This is something that Peter Whalen, who was the chair of the Parking and Traffic Safety Committee, had talked to me about. He said that there is a citywide problem, mostly in the downtown and the immediate outer communities. And I wonder whether we could have a full committee meeting with some participants, let's say at City Hall, on this particular subject. The last time we did this, which was like 2016, we had it was almost unbelievable. We had a full house and people were shouting and multiple participants talking on the same subject. But it was a very good session, and I thought, I wouldn't mind repeating that again if we think that the problem is much wider than just Islington Creek, which I believe it is. So those are the few ideas I have right now, and they're more topical forums as opposed to forums that just focus on the voting wards itself. Anybody would like to comment on that?
Larry, can I just jump in? I think that the attendance for the
Sure.
one in November is a little bit hard to judge anything by, just because of COVID. And then also because the election was happening. And I think people were a little bit burnt out of going to candidate forums and the amount of information that was coming out. So I still think these forums are extremely helpful and important and a great way to communicate to everybody. And I do think that having a topic for them is a great idea. One of the things that we had done in the past prior to the forums that was kind of a launching off point to do the forums was we had several roundtable discussions. I don't know if anybody had ever come to them. We did one on something that Josh Denton had brought up at the last city council meeting, was having ward representation from the councilors. And we had a great roundtable discussion that was moderated. So it wasn't a lot of people talking at once, and it was in the library. And that might be a great way to hold something on that subject. On sound barriers is more informational, but on the parking thing, to do it as a roundtable. But I
That's interesting. I like the idea of the library. Yeah.
And the library is actually
Go
a
ahead.
fantastic location for the forums. It's during COVID, I don't even know if you were able to get it, but once hopefully COVID is over, it's a great location. People are very comfortable going there. The audio visual stuff is just set up. Peter Rice I think would have every meeting there because there's just never any glitches. So that's just something to know. And this is all post-COVID. It's been tough for the last couple of years. I mean, it's just been hard to have these meetings. But I do feel as though if you do one in April or May, maybe I think the one doing it at New Franklin and having the sound barriers as a part of it might be a great way to get the attendance of it up. But that's just my thoughts for doing it that way.
Okay, thanks. Listen, I agree with you. The election did have a lot of things, something to do with it. People are tired now, and they're sick and tired of COVID, just as all of us are. And so I can understand that. It's just a little bit disheartening when you have so much effort and so many people involved when that happens. But nevertheless, we've been doing these forums for a number of years, Kathy, and so to kind of change the tempo a little bit and not always not go by just the voting wards alone, which is what I'm kind of suggesting, that you have a theme, not that it can be still open to other questions of that residents can have for city officials, but to have a theme would give it a little more interest. You know, it'd be like holding a committee meeting doing the same thing, and except now you have a city audience. You know, go ahead.
I agree with that. I think that is it does bring more interest in. My only caution of that is one of the reasons we started the forums in the first place was that everything revolved around an issue of downtown or, you know, the Beverly Hill Road sidewalks or sound barriers. So our idea of doing the wards was to make sure that everybody was included. So if there was an issue that is not big enough to be, you know, nobody's talking about it on social media, nobody's talking about it at the city council meetings, that everybody has a voice. So that's all. And I think that could easily, with the way that you're looking at doing things, could be included. But that was our reasoning for doing the wards, just because at some of those meetings, and I in particular remember one at the fire station,
Right.
A lot of things came up that nobody had never heard of, because there were people that were comfortable to come to those meetings, and we were trying to get the attention away from just downtown issues. And that was it. So just to keep that in mind. And I think that could easily be rectified with changing up the pace of it a little bit, but I just hope that everybody is included.
I kind of like that idea. You know, it's like a hybrid of sorts. Ward, I think that's Ward 4, is it? Ward 4 of the fire station?
I can't remember which one we did. I actually don't think the fire station was in the ward.
No, the Franklin School.
Yeah.
I mean, the fire station on Lafayette Road, I think is Ward 4.
I think we were doing it though. I think we
and
held it there, and it
in
was
that
actually your Mark, your neighborhood.
It's a borderline of 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Don
Yeah.
Darrow was Ward 4. Then
Mhm.
once you get to Ocean Road area, then it goes to 3.
Yeah,
We also had over at the Urban Forestry Center.
Yep.
Which was a night quaint. I think it's the culture and the environment. I think the public wants to know, what is the definition of the CNC? What's their function? What's their goals? What's their objectives? Why do they exist? And I think that, not to reinvent the wheel, but we talked about this last year several times, creating an environment, a safe environment for people to go and speak without being challenged or without being pointed at. And Zoom is a great tool, because someone can actually be talking with their name or not their name or not their picture and be heard and listened to, you know, in a safer environment. And I remember we promoted that. A lot of topics are trending. When the railroad track topic came up, that came up on the agenda, but it was after the thunder was all, the rain show was already done. It went through the media, social media, went through SMG media outlets, you know, print and online. And then once it came to us and we started wanting to talk about it, you know, for the public and for the neighborhoods, we didn't get a lot of audience for that. And you just alluded to something like that. You know, you got to catch it early. Those are trending topics, but the non-trending topics are very important, and things come up. And it only takes that one person to put a highlight out there. And that's happened. It happened in the year and a half I was on the CNC. It's happened with Kathy in the past and you know, and everybody else. So, but I think reinventing the wheel just a little bit, tweaking it, Larry, you know, have John help you would be a great something to look forward to.
Yeah, well, it'd be a little bit of fun too. I mean, certainly no
Always
fun
fun.
with the very few people showing up. Yeah.
It's always
Well, I
fun.
know, but sometimes on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, it
Oh,
could be like 3 or 4.
Well,
That's kind of fun.
the Christmas
But,
tree,
Mark, I think you have.
that's a holiday lighting is fun.
Yep.
Um,
Ken's been trying to
Well,
say
certainly
something.
I can call you, Lori?
Yeah, I was gonna say Ken was has his hand up.
Okay.
You're on?
Okay, thanks, Lori. Couple of things. When we had, I think the idea of having a topic and having it focused and maybe not focusing on one ward is a good idea. But one of the things Larry mentioned was the Islington Creek Neighborhood Parking Program. We need to keep in mind the program expires on Friday, February 4th. There's a Parking and Traffic Safety Committee meeting the day before. So, depending on what the Parking and Traffic Safety Committee decides on the 3rd and what they pass to the City Council, what the City Council subsequently decides, having a meeting, a forum a couple of months later may or may not be moot. Also, when we had the Ward 2 meeting forum, I don't know, several months ago, I can't remember when it was now, we did talk a good deal about the neighborhood parking program. I spoke, and some of the other people who normally speak about it spoke. And we had a pretty good discussion. I got to talk to then Mayor Beckstead about it a little bit afterwards. But that I would put that one on the back burner until we find out whether or not it's going to continue, or what the sense of parking and traffic safety in the City Council are. But I think looking at parking in the city in general is a good idea. And but in general, I like having a focused meeting that doesn't, and one on a topic, and it's not just for a particular neighborhood. I think really will get you more people to come in. So I think that's a good idea.
Well,
Hey, thanks, Ken. Just a footnote on that, and that is that there are other neighborhoods, especially in the like the South End, who have had parking problems rather, and so it is a wider issue, and I would like to address the wider issue. I think that's an important thing. So I like that part of the idea. And yes, the parking trial will be over soon, but I really want to make sure that the outcome of that, especially the analysis and comments from the residents, are made public, so that we all can benefit by the pros and the cons of that particular program. When I originally looked at that program some time ago, there were like 25 variables that could be included into a parking program, such as Boston or Baltimore or some other places. And so it's a complicated issue. But I agree with you. It's not a single neighborhood, maybe a little bit on too much, but making it a citywide problem or issue, I should say, and getting different factors. Once we know the results of the parking trial would be very helpful. So that's a very good suggestion. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Lori has her hand up.
Are we looking for Lori McCray right now? Is that the okay? So I wanted to just, I'm a little bit confused. You can hear me okay, I think, yeah? Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so I support what Mark was saying earlier, all of his comments, and I think they might take it'd be worthy of taking a look at them and considering them. But I am confused because when I say something like, oh, I'm gonna attend the citywide neighborhood committee meeting, they're like, well, what's that? Who's that? What do they do? And I'm still confused what you do. I show up, I've shown up a few times. I'm trying to get an understanding of the purpose, the mission. Is it about like individual neighborhoods? Many people in town in the city don't even know that there are, once upon a time, there was and it still is up in City Hall, the neighborhood map, but people don't know the boundaries of their neighborhood or that it's given a name. I live in Little Harbor neighborhood, but people think the boundaries are what they are not. So it's very confusing, and I think sort of, as a committee, thinking about focusing in and honing in on what is our mission, what is our purpose, who do we include, and how do we approach people and kind of market it that way a little bit. Maybe Portsmouth 400 is another way to bring this in with the city, the focus on the cities and neighborhoods. I've had a few conversations with people about that. So I don't know. I mean, I know people show up. I've done a lot of community organizing in the work that I've done in the past, and people show up when there's something that's relevant to them. They just don't show up when they don't know what's going on. They'll want to show up where there's a location that, like if somebody said, we're meeting at Little Harbor School, well, if I didn't have kids in the school and I show up, I mean, I don't know where to go for the meeting room or any of those sorts of things. So, some consideration of where the locations are. I like the idea of the library. Everybody knows that things happen there, and they're really, really great to work with, and very accommodating. I like the idea of continuing with Zoom as an option, as well as in person, regardless of pandemic issues or not. It gives people that, I mean, for me, it's hard to get out at night sometimes, and I don't always want to bring my adult son, who I'm a full-time care provider for him, and he doesn't want to always come with me, but he would need to come with me. And I think a lot of people have individual circumstances that I'm here tonight because I'm able to be here. And anyway, those are a few things that have been running through my head going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Those are very good ideas. I thank you for the support on the library, because I'm a champion of that too. Just for your information, we are connected with Portsmouth 400. I've had a number of meetings with folks who are running the neighborhoods and community aspect of Portsmouth 400. So I think we're going to be more involved in that. Our goals and objectives and how we run and who we're supposed to include or not include are part of the bylaws, and we don't publish. We have not published those, and they're more like city ordinance speak rather than more common speak. Lori, how would you think we should promote what we do? Let's say in your neighborhood, what type of way would you recommend?
Well, I know am I still speaking yet? I mean, I want to make sure I wasn't on mute. I know in my neighborhood, we have a Facebook neighborhood group, and that's one way people loop in and stay connected. We also have an email chain, and there are a few of us that over the years, we kind of shifted around, different people kind of take charge of it. But we have email chains in our, specific to Little Harbor neighborhood, as well as the local Facebook page. So that's one way. And we also kind of call each other, we're smart, those of us that want to do that. I do like I wanted to mention too, that I like the logo. I see it. I now recognize it. I now know what it means, and I know how it connects to you. So I like the symbol of that as well. And I think everybody should use that, just for branding purposes. But anyway, those are a few ideas.
Okay, good. That's interesting. I'm still noodling over the idea of some type of promotion that talks about who the citywide neighborhood committee is. We've been around since the 90s, I guess, but 1990s that is. And I don't know. That's a hard topic for people to get excited about. John, do you have any comments, by the way, that maybe we can think about this? How do we make ourselves more, as Lori points out, how do we make the neighborhoods more aware of what we do? I guess that's the question.
To be honest, I don't have a quick answer. I really want to just listen tonight, since this is my maiden voyage with the neighborhood committee. But I'm going to take away the thought of how do we promote the value of the neighborhoods through how do we keep them strong and communicate regularly what we're doing?
Thank you. Kathy?
One of the, do you still send emails out? We used to try to send an email out every other week to try to just keep ourselves in front of everybody. And we gathered the email addresses at the forums or at meetings that we had and just added to the list and kind of, you know, did that. And that was one way that, I mean, I know that communication has changed a lot in the last few years. And I know that now there's Facebook and there's Nextdoor and there's the city newsletter and it's all that. And I just don't know if a targeted email might do something to keep everybody out there to aware of what's going on. And then the other thing is something, Larry, you and I have talked about at length is recruiting people from the different neighborhoods. I mean, and typically National Night Out is the best way to do that is to find somebody from every neighborhood that is aware of the Facebook group or the email group that is out there. And I know that people move and it changes and it's tough to find anybody, but you know, putting some kind of initiative into that might be helpful. And then maybe if you can, the mission statement is put that in the city newsletter and say, this is what the mission is of the Citywide Neighborhood Committee, and we'd love to see you at our meetings. I mean, that's just my thoughts.
So
That's interesting. I kind of like that. The idea of sending emails out to our normal mailing list, I've been kind of reluctant to do it more than like once a month or something like that. We've had a lot of emails, especially you know, with National Night Out and the City Lights program, and I always feel that I don't want to tax our mailing list with all kinds of things, but I think that's a good point. Is every so often talk about what we do. The other thing is I do have a list of 23 representatives from each neighborhood, which are the neighborhoods that participated in National Night Out. We don't publish the names of those people, and I don't often send them anything except during National Night Out, with few exceptions. Sometimes there's some particular issue and I might send it. A few of those neighborhoods, maybe about 6 or 7, have extensive mailing list, and it's up to the coordinator of that neighborhood to decide if they want to forward your message or not. So it's kind of iffy, but I have done that in the past on a few items and with the limited success. So I could certainly try that as part of the campaign, if you wish, awareness campaign on who we are. And it's a few people, very active folks down in the Ward 3, Ward 4 area who would be dying to, you know, to get much more involved. And I think that would be helpful. So I've only identified about 3 or 4 people who are really super active who would like to become much more involved in their neighborhoods. But those are all very good ideas. So thanks. Thank you very much for that. All right. Anybody else?
Larry? Yeah, you know, as you know, I've been sitting in on these meetings more or less for the last couple of years. And one of the things I think you should advertise is that it's a very easy, non-threatening forum where people can address the city government. I mean, we have meetings where we have the chief of police, the fire department, Peter Rice. We have John Tabor here right now. And, you know, the example I always give people when they say, well, you know, what good is this thing? I talk about Chevrolet Avenue, where we had one of these meetings. Some of the people who have to walk that at night came and talked about how dangerous it was. There was no sidewalk there. People took notes, people listened, and there's now a sidewalk there, and it's not so dangerous to walk there anymore. So I think what you need to do is let people know that this is a very it's a forum where if they have something they want to say and they want to say to the city and they're not sure how to do it, this is a good place to do it. And it's fairly, you know, I don't think anyone will find it a very threatening environment. And obviously the city does listen. And I think you need to make people aware of that. As I said, I talk to people occasionally about that. I sit in on these meetings and they say, why? And that's what I tell them. So, you know, like I said, the Chevrolet Avenue thing is just one real easy success story I can pull out of my hat real quickly, and I use it a good bit. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate the comment. Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Lori? Not Lori Soloway. Lori McCray?
Yeah, I was just thinking, what are another way of getting the word out? Would it be possible, I don't know, or timely or appropriate or whatever, to make announcements, Larry, at the city council meetings about the updates regarding what your committee is doing? You know, because people tune in every week.
We have, certainly we have a public relations person at City Hall who announces these meetings. If the issue is serious enough, Lori, I and any of the committee can go before the city council and address those particular issues and either ask for solutions or provide a solution, a possible solution. So we do have that access to the city council. The council, of course, is just overworked with all kinds of issues that can take them hours at night. So I don't like to be on the agenda more than I need to. I mean, I just sent a report on what we did for the past few years to the city council. And I gather that John, you received it along with your other council members. But if it's urgent enough, Lori, I will definitely make sure that one of us would go before the city council and make that and address that issue.
And one other thought, it's an informal thing, but Stephanie, she's pronounced her last name Secord. She'll put announcements out on the Portsmouth, NH Facebook page to let people know what's going on. And it's separate from the city, but a lot of people in town, it's like, it's good and bad. You like it or hate it. But a lot of people scroll through it and look at it. And I know I get city information from there, or I find out things about the city, and a lot of the councilors are on it and they look at it. So it might be another way of, promoting activities. If you're holding a forum or whatever, put the logo up there and give the info and just do a post.
Lori, are you talking about the unofficial
people usually post people usually post on both of them. If they want to send information out or whatever, they'll do it on the unofficial, and then they'll do it on the Portsmouth, NH ones. So I typically see posts.
Well, that's certainly a good thought, because I do normally promote the meetings and the forums through both of the media as well as Nextdoor. And so we could use them a little bit more and do more targeted, I won't call them advertisements, but public notices. So that's a good idea. Thanks for that.
Okay, I have to leave the meeting, but I just want to thank everybody for doing this and trying to make a stronger, better city. So thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Have a good evening.
Anybody else? Mark.
I was thinking of the word visibility. In order to have an organization or any type of business be visible, it has to advertise. The number one advertising is the city newsletter. And an idea would be to have might be called the CNC News, where it's information. And I see John, he comes from a publication background, is you got to stay in front of people. And the best way to stay in front of people is to use the resources that the city has. And the city newsletter, how many times a week does it go out, and to how many people? And when you expose this group to that amount of people on a consistent basis, and then you have it news related to neighborhoods. You know, someone can write up a 10 paragraph or 5 very short link and say, this is the news, and people read it. So it's just staying in front of people. That's going to create curiosity within the public, and it's going to show that this is an active group, or it could be an active group. That's it. That's my
But
thought.
we are an active group, thank you. We are a very active group. Sure.
Yeah, we're just busting at the seams with stuff.
And your suggestions are excellent. I will
Waiting-
find a committee person
wait.
who will.
Waiting
with
for the,
that.
so, you know, just more exposure, and use that newsletter and make sure the CNC, because the only time you see the CNC in there is when they're having a meeting. But you don't really know what they're doing. And so if it says
Well,
CNC,
we know that
CNC News,
we know that
not CNN News, CNC News.
Stephanie Secord doesn't promote our meetings, so I can always talk to her and see if what else we could do. But that's a good idea. Thanks.
Yeah,
I
and of
appreciate
course,
that.
John can help you with that. Or help us with that.
I'm
so.
sure John will, you know.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else would like to speak?
Just a couple of thoughts. The Facebook groups have close to 8,000 people who are members, and that's excluding who's outside the city. I looked at the advertising statistics. And the city newsletter, I think, is well over 6,000. And that's weekly. And I think each of the, Lori talked about the email chains, those are very influential. And some of those, for example, up that way, Aaron Garganta has the neighborhood list up there, and that's a very active list and helped a lot in the getting people out with various public hearings. So all of those reach a lot of people. And I think it's both and. I think you have a strategy to use them all. And I love the idea of a regular update. The only tricky part about Facebook is it's great to push things out. It gets very tricky when you start to engage. It's pushing information out, that's great. Starting engaging with people, that can turn into
Thank you, John. Listen, I have used the unofficial city of Portsmouth, which has 20,000, allegedly 20,000 members in the group. And I like Mark's idea of the newsletter. We can use social media on a regular basis, and as long as it's newsworthy. But the thing with unofficial, both real and unofficial real city of Portsmouth, is that it gets so many pieces of information, so many people contribute, and we're just like one, and within 20 minutes there might be 5 or 6 others after. So really, the difficulty I have with that type of social media approach is that it's just a flash. You get a flash, you get some information. Some people will read it. Some people may read it tomorrow or the next day, and then it's gone. But it's certainly, I wouldn't stop using it myself for that, for the reasons. I think that it does reach some people, and all you need to do is if you see something that we're going to, some event that we're planning, I think would be, they get a notion that maybe they want to attend, and that's the whole idea of this. So we'll be talking more about this, John, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a good topic, and it aligns with what we want to do as a council too. Engagement, communication piece.
Hey, is there anybody else who wishes to comment? Then I'll suggest that we close the meeting unless, I suggest we close the, oh, you want, go ahead, Ken.
I was just waiting to buy.
Okay, thank you. We'll
Thank
close
you.
the meeting today. I'll prepare the minutes. Laura, you can help me refresh, make sure that I have it accurate. So thank you all for coming. This has been a surprise for me. I expected to be out of here. Actually, at 7 o'clock, it's now 7:24. So we've had a very good meeting. Thank you all for attending and have a good night. And don't forget, keep your, you don't have to go out on Saturday unless you absolutely have to. Keep shoveling, Mark.
I'm supposed to get on a plane Saturday. Wish me luck.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Bye-bye.
Bye.